Hi there, this is Michael Becker, and welcome to this installment of a Tinderbox lesson. And today we're going to do an interview with Phil Scheuerman, who's the professor of environmental health at East Tennessee State University and is the director at the Environmental Health Science Lab there as well. And Phil, welcome to the our session today. I really appreciate you taking the time.
Well, thanks for having me. It's these things are can always be kind of fun and and we learn a lot about ourselves when we do them.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so, with that in mind, let's learn a little bit about you. So, our goal today, just to set the stage for those that are listening, is you and I both are avid Tinderbox users and have been playing it with it for years. And I, for one, have kind of gotten through a hump and have started this YouTube channel over the last couple of months, and invited you in to kind of help us see how you're using the tool. But before we get into the kind of Tinderbox part of the discussion, let's start with you. Can you introduce yourself to us and let us know what it is you do and how Tinderbox plays a role into that?
So, my training is I have a bachelor's in microbiology and a master's and PhD in environmental engineering, and so I teach courses related to that. So I teach at the senior level and graduate level things like environmental. We call it biological analysis, but it's essentially environmental uh, biology slash microbiology. I teach a soil science course for environmental health students. And at the graduate level, I teach things like research methods, environmental microbiology, environmental risk assessment. And most of those topics are also, kind of integrated into my research, which focuses on molding together the engineering aspects with the environmental biology, environmental microbiology aspects. And then because it's environmental health, we're interested, typically environmental science, the endpoint is the environment. With environmental health, the endpoint is human health. We're actually in the College of Public Health.
And when you do that, is this just like where's the intersection with like other elements in society? For example, I recently watched that movie Dark Waters,
Mhm.
where we had the whole poisoning of the water from pharmaceutical industry back in the ways back. I mean, is that the kind of stuff you're looking at? So is it like the impact of what on the environment? Industry, society, corporations, just us as human beings living in the world and its impact on society, on environment.
Yeah, and then the feedback loop on how we're hurting ourselves by doing that.
Got
And
it.
in fact, water is the main what we call environmental matrix that we work with in our research group. Although we've done soil work, air work, and we branch out occasionally because environmental health is one of my undergraduate students defined this uh, wonderfully and eloquently. Um, that environmental health is one of the last Renaissance sciences. So you've got to be a biologist, you got to be a chemist, you've got to have fairly good math skills, and then you've got to be a sociologist um, because you're dealing with the basic sciences and then how that impacts human health. And somehow we end up having to communicate all that to various stakeholders, the public, the regulators, the and the regulated, and we have to interface with all of those. So it's a very much an interdisciplinary kind of view of environmental issues.
Okay. So in that note, then, so how does Tinderbox help you in this, in with your life, and first, how did you discover Tinderbox, and how are you using it?
So I can't tell you exactly how I discovered Tinderbox. um, Doing some kind of search for tools to do some of the things that I was trying to do, it popped up, gosh, a long time ago. And like many of the people who come to the forums and who come to the meetups, been a long time user, very active, sometimes not so active. Took me a while to figure out exactly how to use it and really what it was. But over the years, I've Um, used it for my teaching, for manuscript preparation, project tracking. Um, as an academic, I have to serve on committees, and I'm chair of two university committees, biosafety and radiation safety. So I have to track the activities of that. I use Tinderbox for that. I would say initially I used it more as a data dump, data repository, and I still don't, but I've gotten better at using a lot of the other um, capabilities of Tinderbox. And I've actually with the meetups, I've increased my understanding and appreciation for all the attributes.
Mhm.
A lot of things I did, as most people do, I have text in a note and I'd search with an agent to pull that information out. And as I've listened to you and Mark Anderson talk about the wonders of attributes, I'm starting to go back and modify a lot of my files to turn things into attributes to take advantage of some of those more powerful things.
Yeah, and
Occasionally we
on that
do.
note, let me just pause you right there. I think that's a really critical insight. There's actually a whole philosophical treatise around the idea of metacognition,
Mhm.
which is really around how do you break things down into their attributes, essentially into their core elements. And in so many ways, that's what Tinderbox allows us to do is we can take our initial concept a of a note and its title. And if you think about it, title and text are just nothing more than attributes. They just happen to be the default attributes that are always displayed.
Right.
And then everything else. So in so many ways, even title and text of a note is an attribute. So when you think about that, everything is an attribute. And then the use of prototypes are essentially just a way of codifying a template of viewing a set of attributes for a particular set of notes. And then the rules and agents and export codes are ways of then manipulating and transforming those to create new things. So in some ways, it's a lot like chemistry. You combine a bunch of different elements from the periodic table together, and you can, make water and oxygen and a whole bunch of other things. And frankly, I think we can invent new stuff that way too.
Oh yeah.
And that's really where I got the as I've espoused quite a bit in my videos, the idea of the 4 C's of knowledge making that's possible and exchange that's possible through and with Tinderbox, which is essentially you collect a bunch of notes, you curate those by linking them and adding attributes and reworking them. You then create new insight yourself from the collection of your notes, which create new insight, which leads to more collection, which leads to more creation. And then when you're ready and you've got critical mass for a certain set of insight, you then can move to the contribution phase where you're actually then able to export and contribute your knowledge.
When I, for example, grade papers at essay exams, I create a set of notes that I have an export template to that I
Oh,
then
cool.
cut and paste into their documents. And for some simple couple page reports and things where I have to report, um, activities for a committee, or, you know, in education and higher ed is just sort of getting where K through 12 is. There's all kinds of data we're asked for so people can report to accrediting agencies, and so some of that information I keep in various uh, Tinderbox files, and I'll output it as a simple text file and paste
Yeah.
it in.
Yeah, no, very cool.
Yeah.
So let's do that. Why don't we jump in? Maybe you can start showing us one of your examples.
Okay. Let me share my screen. Tinderbox go. Okay. Share the whole desktop.
Okay. So we see notes and ideas.
Yeah. So this is the demo of how I use Tinderbox for my teaching. But I've also got files like, so this is how I track the stuff for the biosafety committee. This is a book I'm working on, and I'm basically putting text in the chapters, and that will eventually, I haven't decided how I'm going to output it yet, whether I'll output it as HTML and put it into Word or do something like LaTeX or something. But this is it may end up as a book. Right now it's ending up as a series of review articles on environmentally transmitted pathogens. Same kind of idea. I'm gathering information on citations and slowly creating various manuscripts. Working on a systematic review with some colleagues in another department, and we're using this quality assessment tool to evaluate the articles we're using. And so I've got the tool in here, and then as I bring it in, I am rating it. And I have a daily journal. I use it some, not a lot. But the main demo that I prepared is I created this dummy course. So I work mostly from the outline view for this, but we'll just go to a course. This is this. So I've got a section where I can plan and evaluate as things go. I only have one entry here just because I created a dummy entry. But there'll be, by the end of the semester, several entries, and I'll look at these and at the end of the semester, and again at the beginning of the next time I'm going to teach this course, and think about what I'm going to change or add.
I see. So in this section of your course, you that's where you put your notes as the course moves along.
Well, there's actually yes and no. There are two places that I keep notes, and I'll show the other one. And then I aggregate those later. This is syllabus, and because of COVID, we've had to do several syllabus revisions. One of the things that I'm changing, and I'm going to do that over the summer, is this is a PDF in. I'm actually going to do the same idea where I'm just going to cut and paste this text in and then output this into a Word document. So I can tweak it. And probably what I'm going to do is, every syllabus has various sections. Some is boilerplate, so that'll be in one set of notes, and then things like the course outline, course objectives will be in their own individual notes, and I'll aggregate those as I output them.
Yeah, and one of the things I can show you, maybe if you're interested at the end, I can show you exactly how to do some of that with the templating.
Yeah, that would be useful.
Okay.
So we've gone online, and to make online through Zoom useful and keep students' attention, I've taken a technique that I've typically used only in my graduate classes and moved it to my undergraduate classes, where class time is not lecture. It's not exactly a flipped classroom. It's sort of a team-based learning approach. It's sort of, I don't know if you've heard of POGL, but sort of a POGL. But it's a kind of a combination.
I'm sorry,
of those.
Fogel. What is that? I'm not
POGL. Gosh, you're going to make me remember the.
How do you spell that?
POGIL. It's an acronym. It's participatory.
Okay, I'll look it up.
Yeah, but it's a group-based kind of activity.
Got it.
So I pre-record videos of the lecture material instead of delivering the lecture. So I've created this section where I'm tracking the videos, and one of the things I'm going to do is, right now they're all in our content management system. I think I'm going to download them all to a local folder and their MP4s, and do something like what you've been doing, where I'll reference to those so that I can also create a handout sheet with the video built into it that I can post on our system for students to look at.
And I believe you have the code I've shared before with you on how to insert a video into a file.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I provide students with a concept map. And so this is where I use the mapping feature. And then I'll, output this somehow for students. So this is an overview concept map of the entire course.
Can I show you some? Are you aware of this? Can I show you a little trick while we're here?
Yeah.
If you go to edit,
Yeah.
click click anywhere on the note, the base of the note. Yeah, great. Now click edit. I know. Go to edit. I just needed you to get the note active.
Oh, okay.
No, you had it. You had it. Just click the back.
Okay.
No.
Edit.
Right. Copy view as image.
Yeah, I do that.
Okay. Well, but for the purposes of the lesson, maybe we can show people that. So if you do copy view as image and then open up your preview, that way people can see it. Right. And so that way you get a high res, for those that are watching, that's the way he can get a high res image of his class map. Yeah, and maybe you can walk us through this, and both in Tinderbox and show us what.
So once I've done that, then what I'm gonna save it. I usually save it as a PNG file.
Yeah.
And then I can upload that into the content management system as a file for students to look at and work with.
Like that.
So I would just put course set. And then it'll look like this. And of course they can resize it and move it around in the PNG file. And it shows them the various kinds of relationships between the topics. Each one of these boxes is a topic that we're talking about this semester. Mm-hmm. And this is how the various topics relate to one another and in which direction, and whether they're, an expansion of a concept or an explanation of a concept by just basically naming the link types.
Yeah, and explain that to me. So like, what does like application versus where mean?
So where would be where it would occur. So aquatic macroinverts, where do we find them? We find them in water. Okay. Application would be, so for example, environmentally transmitted pathogens. I don't think I have a link from it, but one application would be the laboratory analysis to identify the pathogens, how we do it. So the application would be doing basically the isolation and enumeration of the pathogens or the indicator organisms. Or a higher level application might be like wastewater treatment. So where does this stuff used by wastewater treatment operators?
Nice. Okay.
How's that used in a wastewater plant? Those types of things. Okay.
And now, in this map view too, if you can click on one of your notes, are you putting anything in the text that actually defines that that particular item and gives a description and such?
Yeah. So for here, actually, I don't think I've done any for this class.
Well, this is a sample class too, so
yeah. But yeah, I will do that and output that as a companion document.
Yeah, okay, that's what I was thinking. Yeah, very nice.
Yeah. And so part of the group-based work that we do in the class. So let's go back to outline. So they work in groups. So they have group assignments, and these are various, problems they have to solve, activities they have to carry out, group essays they have to write, questions they have to answer using the material, and among those is I make them create as a group their own concept map of each of the topics. So they drill down into those topics and make a sub concept map.
Got it. And do you have them use Tinderbox for that or no?
No, because we're not a Mac university, so
Got it.
people have Macs, but most people are on Windows, and
Got it.
um, and despite the fact that I think these students ought to be very technology savvy, I find that there's certain things that amazingly they can't do with technology.
Yeah, like an example.
Well, like learning new software.
Yeah.
In Word, they use Microsoft Word very rudimentary. They don't know anything about style sheets, or
Mm.
how they can make their life so much easier with style sheets. And I make them use. They write essays with sources and references, and they don't know how to use any of the bibliography functions, tables, and linking tables to text. And
Right.
so something like having them learn Tinderbox in this class would probably be um,
A
difficult
challenge.
to do. I'd almost have to have a whole class on Tinderbox if we were able to do that. But unfortunately, um, most of them are not going to have Macs. There's a few students that use Macs. Um,
Now, I noticed
and
here too, you have your PDF file again, embedded here. Is that something too you might want to be breaking into?
well, actually, I've already done that this semester. This is a course from last semester, but this semester I actually have done that.
Okay.
Um, I've gone and just converted that to text, and then I'm outputting it either into Word or a PDF, or in in some cases breaking it into like a PowerPoint presentation.
Nice. Okay.
Um, so after the concept map, then I have weekly lesson plans, and I've got prototypes to generate. I've got a prototype for a Tuesday, Thursday class, and a prototype for a Monday, Wednesday, Friday class that will create this list of week and days. So this is a Tuesday, Thursday class. So there's day 1 and day 2. And in the prototype, I have a blank. Let's go down to one here. No, it's not working as usual. But the prototype for this actually creates the blank. Um, so there's just the objectives with 1, 2, 3 teaching
Yes.
materials and the table, and then I fill it in as I plan for the week.
Got it.
So when I create this, it's supposed to create those, but something broke on those particular ones. And ordinarily I would have like the week start date, weekend date, and the topic for that week
Mm-hmm.
covered as attributes, so I can pull that out. And then I use the check boxes to check it off, so that when I come in, I know exactly what week I'm supposed to be on, because I can see it visually very easily right there.
Nice.
And then, but then I have, okay, so I showed you the group assignments. And then I give students these handouts, things to do and know, which are written notes like this. And this is the same thing. I'm turning these into text in the note rather than the inserted documents, so I can easily edit them. But they're notes based off the lecture and other materials with sources. And at the end, I have a series of questions that they have to answer. These are definitions, and then there will be some discussion questions, and then citations. They have to do 2 essay exams in this class, and the essay exams come from those discussion questions that I
Got it.
put into these things to do and know. So these go out every couple of weeks into the course content. So that they can, in fact, here's one I've already converted to this text. I just need to start cleaning it up. Most of this I'll end up doing this summer when we're done and have as much to do.
Right.
Okay, and then I have a section for students, and I've created a dummy student here. And so I keep stuff like their last name, first name, their student number, email address, and I divide students into groups. And so this, in the class, this would tell me which of the large groups they're in, which of the small groups they're in. Depending upon the kind of activity, they're going to either be in a group of 4 or 5 or a group of 2 or 3, unless the enrollment's really low in the class. Some of my classes, because it's a senior level class and they're usually taking it their last year, will only have 10 or so students in it for a fairly small major. The badge, the label is the color associated with the group, and then I can record their grades for the various assignments. That's actually captured automatically in our content management system. So it's kind of obviated now, but I used to do this, and that's how I'd calculate their grades. But I left the
Got it.
grade book in the content management. But I'm still recording this because I can, start looking at this and look at certain group assignments and certain quizzes and certain exams and go, okay, nobody got that. So I either need to change how I'm covering that material, or I need to rethink how the assignment works or something like that, because I can do some evaluation on each of those,
Yep.
those items. Content management system does some of that per class, but it doesn't do it well across your, so for every time I've offered this class, even though it's all in there, I can't. So I'll aggregate it here. But then the other thing I can do is we have a rubric that we have to use, or we don't have to use anymore. So for accreditation, there's all kinds of requirements that come down to at the university level and at the college level and at the department level, depending upon where you're accredited. All universities are accredited by something, and then colleges, like we're in a College of Public Health, so we're accredited by this. The Public Health Association, and then environmental health is accredited by the National Environmental Health Station, or the subset of that called EHAC. And so we have certain data we have to show that students are doing certain kinds of activities, writing. We have to have certain kinds of knowledge. We got to be able to say whether or not they're using understanding, using. I'll show you a little bit more in a minute. And so we created a spreadsheet for that. So that was done for about 5 years, and we had to report on that yearly. And I would aggregate all the spreadsheets from all the faculty and create the report. So we don't have to do it now, but I still use it because I find it a good evaluation tool for me, and it's useful for the students. So what I have done is I've set it up in here. And I don't know if you know who Brian Crane is. He's got a website, Ordinary Human Language.
No.
He teaches I think it's English or something like that, but he had a setup where he had used a rubric, and he did a series of simple videos on it, and then he went away from his rubric, but he still did some work with Tinderbox to provide student notes. And so I had been doing this, and I started looking at his stuff, and so some of what I've done here is take what he's done and integrate it into what I'm doing. So that's another thing. And I know he's been I've seen him around in a while on the forums, and there haven't been many entries on his blog page recently. So I don't know if he's, like most of us, gotten too busy or burned himself on it. But so anyways, what I can do now is so we're going to do essay exam 1. Let me blow that up so it's a little easier to see. And then, so I've got a graded assignment, and then they usually write 2 essays, but just for our example, I'm only going to put 1 in here. This is number 1. And then what I do is I'll essay rubric. And so it creates these rubric categories with scores.
Okay.
So a judge's 3 is outstanding. And then if for some essays something might not be important, I haven't covered, so I have a not applicable. Now what I do right now is I just go through, and any of them that are checked not applicable I delete. But one of the things I'm going to do this summer is add some Boolean codes so that if this is checked, it automatically deletes it rather than I hand delete it.
Sure.
Or it just automatically ignores it. So I would go through and I would, let's say it's 2.5, and there's a generalized description for many of them, and then I can come over here and enter any comments. So something like proofreading is one weakness, so it's a very common comment to
Yeah.
if you proofread. Another common issue with our students would be something like that writing is overly complex.
Yeah, my personal one has been typos, passive voice.
Yep.
You
A lot of
know,
typos. Yep.
yeah,
And so I can type those comments in the same time. It's in a Word document, so I'm typing some comments and using some track changes. So the two are going to be combined when they get feedback. And so then I'll go down, and for now we'll just give them all a score. Very few essays would use all of these categories, but
yeah.
oops, smooth. So when I'm done, I would just go up and check and make sure it's put the appropriate points up here. So this particular one is for recognizing, and I can capture this later for our reports. And the average student score on recognizing questions was X, the average student score, and then I would close that.
So let's pause there real quick though. So do you have an edict or a rule that's pulling up that summary? So how is it? How do you have it? Calculating the and putting into the attribute that value too.
Oh yes, yeah, I have.
So can we see that? Can you do a command 1 and let us see what that is? It's probably an edict, right?
No, actually.
Oh, no. You're on the note. You got to be selecting the actual note. Select
right,
the top on the note. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
And that's probably a rule.
So
got it. So what you're doing there is point value equals sum if children checked. Okay. So if it's checked, grab that value.
Grab that value. Yeah.
Perfect.
And so what I'm going to add now is if it's checked not applicable, delete it or ignore it or something.
Mm-hmm.
So of course Tinderbox can be slow. So when you the other good thing about going up and closing these is you force it to do the calculation. Check it, and you check and make sure you have comments here.
Mm-hmm.
This is not working well today.
That's working great. Seems a little slow on your end, but on my end, it's perfect.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good. Yeah. So then the essay has a rule that sums them all up. So that's the sum of all of them. Mm-hmm. Now, if I had, and then the essay exam has a rule that sums all of the essays. So if I had 2 essays, it would combine the scores and it calculates their grade. This particular student didn't do so well. And then what I can do is if I go to preview, I have an output that gives them their grade. And for essay 1, it gives them their points, and then it includes all the comments that I've made.
That's really nice. And you're doing the output with a template?
And with a template. Yep.
Got it. And, yeah. So I take my comment back earlier. You are actually, doing some really useful, contribution is the category I call it. If you have a better name for that, I'd appreciate it. But, the ability to publish, maybe another terminology for that.
Yeah, and then I would capture this. I just select all and paste it to the top of the Word document.
Fantastic.
So they have that right at the top. And then again, of course, there are other. Sometimes I pull the other comments in. Sometimes I don't. And then for the student, Didn't assign. No, that's right. Oh, I know why, because I'm in preview. The next thing is to have it automatically capture that grade. I just haven't done it yet.
Right.
Because, like I said, for them, it's being captured in the content management section. And then this class has a laboratory, so I can capture the laboratory information, meetings with the TAs. We video all the labs so they can see the lab in advance before they go do it. Mm-hmm. And actually during COVID, instead of we weren't allowed to have them in the lab, so basically they watched the video and then we gave them data and they wrote it up based on what they saw.
That is very cool. So essentially what the Tinderbox is helping you do in this regard is to kind of, keep you organized, keep it structured, both qualitatively and quantitatively help you manage the class. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure that creates a certain level of calm too during the storm of the class, because it's all in one place.
Yeah, and I can quickly look it up.
Yeah.
And it also it helps evaluate. And so the team-based learning at the undergraduate level is new for me. So I know some of the things that graduate students have better skills at, my undergraduates can't. So those notes and their performance on those, I have all that captured, so I can create little reports for myself that I can look at and start thinking about how I'll do things differently. And I'm going to continue to do this when we go back on ground, because the student
works.
It works. The student essay scores that tend to be going up, I think, because they're doing some of this in group form first. So
very nice, very nice. And they're collaborating with each other, and then again, leveraging Tinderbox, you can track that. And then presumably, then to your point earlier, because you're essentially keeping a record of all of this for yourself, then, for example, when it comes to rubric reporting and all of that, you've got the data, you have the history, and you can go to as little or as much detail as you want because you have it all there in one place.
Yeah, I can. So again, I can look at each of the questions. And so if they want to know, if we don't know what our students' average communicating score is, or another one is seeking score, which is finding information and using it, evaluating score, I can pull those out and create a report just like I give to the students, but by category, what's the average student score, so we can look at and evaluate what our students may be weak at and what we might want to enhance, or what we might be thinking we're doing and that we're actually not doing very much of.
Yeah. Wow. Well, that's really exciting. Well, thank you very much. What, as you think going forward, what would you want to be doing more with Tinderbox? What would you kind of alluded already to a few things you want to do, is getting more of your text into the, into the solution, leveraging more attributes. What other things might you be wanting to get out of Tinderbox going forward?
So on the teaching side, I think probably more being able to generate data across assignment types for students to look at, and also for me to look at. Like, some students do really well on quizzes, some do, and so they get a weekly quiz. So I check their knowledge of the material with the weekly quizzes. I check their ability to use it and communicate it with the essay exam and the labs. I need to try and aggregate that to see where their strengths and weaknesses are in something I can look at. Now I have to go through and look.
Right.
It's easier than it has been in the past. It's easier than when it was all in different kinds of different spreadsheets. But to automate that into a single report, so that I can say this student, and maybe create some pie charts or bar charts to illustrate that.
Yeah,
would be really useful.
Okay. Yeah, and I could see then some of the aggregation work that you might want to accomplish too, is the ability to build a table, for example, from attributes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's something I've not done much of. So it's one of those, yeah, I got to start doing that, but I got to wait until I have time because I know I'm going to screw it up 80 billion times
Yeah.
before
No,
I
no,
get it right.
understood for sure.
I mean,
Okay.
there have been many days when I've been working on something like this and I look up and, oh, it's time to go into class.
Exactly. Yeah, it's funny. You can really lose yourself in the use of Tinderbox and
Yeah.
and it's getting into all of the value. Well,
And, and,
wonderful.
and on the research side, trying to see if I can use it for some more. We've done some qualitative analysis, but we actually have hard data, and I'm trying to see if I can put data in as attributes and do some quantitative analysis to create, again, easy tables and things like that for reports.
Right. And I don't know if you were on last week's meetup, but Beck Tench and Mark Anderson worked on doing just that,
Yeah,
where
I
she was,
was really intrigued by that. I
yeah,
watched this.
where she was able to
Yeah,
assess quite a bit
yeah,
of that. And then we have a few templates I could share with you as well that would help you out with building those attributes or building essentially tables from the attributes of your notes. And that's one of the great values of using attributes is that once the data is kind of broken up into its meta pieces like that, then reassembling them is just a matter of playing with your HTML code and your export code and your action code to make that happen.
yeah. HTML is something I know enough to be in trouble. So that's another thing, is to get better at HTML.
Yeah, yeah, and then once you've done that, the next step would be then to play with CSS so you can make it
Yeah,
pretty.
yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, Phil, thank you very much. As we kind of wrap things up, do you have any last minute insights for your fellow professors or teachers as they look at Tinderbox and moving forward, or what would you like to leave us with?
Well, there's this common theme that has been coming out that I'd like to reemphasize, is that when I first used Tinderbox, even for my classes, it was just a place to dump everything. And so I just would start putting stuff in. But as you get more sophisticated with it, you don't have to start over. Tinderbox is flexible enough that you can go back and add attributes um, and change things around very easily. So if you just start using it and then just build as you go, it gets more powerful over time as you get more skilled with it. And I think for me, starting with Tinderbox was, it's here's where I want to be, here's where I am. I really want to be, how do I get there? And it took me a while to realize, well, just like with any other kind of problem you're solving or whatever, you're just going to do it in small baby steps, but you just start by putting everything in there. And then later on, since it's there, you can manipulate things so you can use it in more useful ways or visualize it.
Yeah, I think that's a really powerful idea. And what Mark Anderson refers to that as incremental formalization.
Right.
And essentially what what I'm hearing you say is, in some ways, trust the process, right?
Right.
Dump your notes into Tinderbox and then trust as your thinking evolves that and your use of the tool evolves, you can get to that endpoint of where you want to be. And I would say, for those that are listening, I would also argue and suggest that, again, to the 4 C's of knowledge making and exchange that I've put forth, this idea of collection, curation, creation, and then contribution or publishing. Trust the community as well. So that at any point when you want to, like, well, how do I produce that table from my attribute so I can generate the report I want? You don't really need to struggle over that because the community is there to help you. And invariably, if you've used Tinderbox and you have some notes and you have some attributes, you just put a post in the forum that says, how do I do this? And invariably, you're going to have a bunch of people that will come out and say, well, here's how to do it. And more often than not, I found that people not only will tell you how to do it or even show you how to do it, they in fact will do it for you. They'll give you a test file, which you then can just simply copy that template into your file and make it work for you. So I think that's a really powerful insight, and thank you for sharing that. And that,
Yeah. And the other thing that I found the forums useful for, by just perusing them, sometimes I pick up ideas that I didn't even know would be useful to me.
right.
So, oh, well, I could use that in here. So And it might not be the same application, but the idea is enough so that, sometimes that's another way you evolve your file is by looking at what other people are doing and realizing that would be applicable to your use if you do some tweaks on it.
Yeah, exactly. See, the attribute names may be different, the
Right.
forms may be different, but the flow is the same. And so therefore you can leverage that capability. Well, this has really been insightful, and I appreciate it. And maybe in the summer, once you're done, adding in your attributes and updating some of your methods here, we can do a version 2 of the interview and see how you've evolved this file from here to where you end up being. So
that would be good. That'd be fun.
I'd be really excited to do that. Well, Phil, thank you very much. I really appreciate it, and we'll stay in touch.
All right, sure.
Okay.